and welcome to the Red Menace. No, what do we say? Okay. Hello and...
Great start.
Shut the fuck up.
Great start to this episode.
Can't believe I'm friends with you. Hello and welcome to the Red Menace. We're a comedy news podcast bringing you the latest and greatest stories, hits, still from inside. No change there.
No change.
It's going to be an inside podcast for the foreseeable future.
But I have been able to go outside for the first time in 2 weeks.
That's right. You're no longer on lockdown. You're now just on... You're now on everyone else's level of lockdown instead of the bad one.
I'm now on, heavily suggested that you don't go outside lockdown, as opposed to if you go outside, you will be fined $11,000 lockdown.
Yeah. Now it's just if you don't have an excuse, you'll be fined $11,000 lockdown.
I've just got to go to Woolworths each time I go outside, and then I'll be safe.
You could come up with some pretty fun excuses, I think.
Oh, yeah.
They could be
Absolutely.
What do you think if the police pulled you up and they're like, why are you outside? And you're like, I'm tracking a gang of human traffickers.
I feel like at some point the police would just be like, well, just you do you.
The police are handing out a fine and you're like, wow, so I guess you support human trafficking, huh?
Absolutely. It's like,
super cool.
Wow, that's disgusting. These human traffickers, it's on you when these humans are trafficked.
Then you start tweeting about it and being like, the police fined me for trying to fight against human trafficking. Can't believe the New South Wales police. What?
Absolutely.
What traffic heads.
Jeez. But as to be expected, right, with the amount of time being spent indoors, I've been spending a lot of time watching movies.
Yes.
But because I'm also... You know when you spend 2 hours scrolling through Netflix and you just find that you're not inspired to watch anything?
Yes. Can I just quickly run down what I've watched in the last fortnight? So I've watched all of Arrow, all of The Expanse, a lot of Game of Thrones, a lot of Parks and Recreation, and at least 10 hours of just miscellaneous YouTube content.
I feel like my miscellaneous YouTube video count, I don't want to think about how many hours have been sunk into that. Into, the BA test kitchen videos. There's a lot of hours that go into watching them. You know, lots of assorted content. But that does mean that I have just had the television on in the background of everything that I'm doing. And
I've also watched the first 2/3 of a lot of Marvel movies, and what happens is I watch the first 2/3 of it, I get bored and think, no, the next one's better, and then watch the next one, and that's
the
process.
same thing happens.
Yeah, so my Disney Plus resume playing thing is a fucking nightmare.
Oh, it's got every movie in the world on the resume playing.
On a related note, Sophie, if you're listening to this, you can use my Disney Plus again. I signed back up for it.
Yeah, I'm on my sister's Netflix. Anyway, so I've been watching films on television, and there's been some great things on television in Australia this week. In fact, just in the past 2 days, I've watched 2 classic films that I would like to share with you guys.
All right, I'm psyched.
The first film that I've watched this week that I would like to share with you is called Spy Kids 4, in fact. Or as the full name goes, Spy Kids All the Time in the World in 4D Aromascope.
That is... Okay. So, 4D implies it's using... So, 4 dimensions. Does that mean it's also using 4 senses? At what point... Well, it says aromascope, so I'm guessing there's a sense of smell involved in there somewhere. Does that mean if there's also touch involved, it becomes 5D? If it's got those, shaking chairs or whatever?
I guess so.
How many Ds can you fit into one movie is my question.
That might be the wrong question.
How many Ds in the movie?
I'm sure some pornographic films probably fit a lot of Ds into the film.
Well, I again think there's probably a Guinness World Record for that.
I would hope, given that this is a kids' movie, that there are no Ds in that sense.
Well, Alison, I'm sure there's a lot of Ds. They're just hidden behind trousers.
They're just in trousers, as they should stay in a children's film.
Absolutely. And an adult's film. We don't need to see that stuff. Blur that out.
Anyway, so Spy Kids 4 is a thing that exists. Which is, it does star, in fact, Joel McHale as the dad of the titular Spy Kids.
So we've really just completely excised the Mexican flavour from Spy Kids, huh?
Right. But Jessica Alba is the mum.
Oh, that's
of
okay.
The titular Spy Kids.
That's something.
Yeah. So it's got Jessica Alba and Joel McHale have some children who then become Spy Kids.
Really strange pairing of people. I can't see it.
Yeah. There was no participation of Antonio Banderas or any of our classic favourite Hollywood Mexicans.
Or you remember that Sylvester Stallone was in the third one? He's not Mexican, but he was great fun.
Jesus Christ.
Danny Trejo's in all of them.
So one thing that I discovered, though, when I was reading the Wikipedia page for this film is, in fact, the Aromascope version, because watching it on television,
yes,
I wasn't able to experience the Aromascope part of the film.
Okay.
But it says this Aromascope, basically the system works. It allows people to sniff odours and aromas from the film via scratch and sniff cards.
That is not what I was expecting.
Last used theatrically in the 2003 animated film Rugrats Go Wild. So I presume when you enter the cinema with your ticket, you get a scratch and sniff card.
Can I just quickly, Rugrats Go Wild is a film about toddlers. What kind of smells are we expecting there? Because I can't imagine they're ideal.
Well, it's a mashup movie between the Rugrats and Wild Thornberrys, which takes place in a jungle, which also has a lot of unpleasant smells.
Smell of, like, human feces, smell of waterfall, smell of human feces, smell of jungle. Like, it's just going to alternate.
There might be some animal feces in there too, though.
Animal feces as well, as long as it's mostly feces-based.
Now, I wish I knew about this Aromascope factor before I watched the film, because I think it would be fun to watch the film and then figure out at which moments the creators would have included an aroma. Like, at what point would there be an aroma? Now, I don't remember, but I'm sure there was a fart moment in the movie.
I've just come up with
tracks.
A good idea for a second podcast if we ever need to make one. Or if we run out of content for this one, which is we could just watch movies and decide what parts of the film could become smell-o-vision moments.
Yeah. But do you want to know
watch The Shining and just be like, now which parts of this film need scratch and sniff cards to really accentuate?
Absolutely. One thing that I feel like pointing out, though, is Ricky Gervais is in Spy Kids 4.
What the fuck?
I believe Ricky Gervais is a talking dog.
Well, I mean, so same as real life.
Yeah, exactly. Now, that's not the only film that I've watched, which I feel like sharing with you guys. The other one was also released in 2011, another smash hit film called Hop, which is an Easter film, which is topical given the season that we're in at the moment. Given
that yesterday Jesus died, and tomorrow Jesus is going to be like, psych, was joking.
Psych! Hey, you guys got punked!
You guys got fucking owned! Like and subscribe.
He'll emerge and he's actually Ashton Kutcher. And he'll be like, you guys got punked big time.
Kutcher the whole time. I time travelled back to 0 BC or whatever.
To punk everybody.
And of course he's like live streaming all of this.
And they left that out of the Bible, that Jesus was Ashton Kutcher all along. Because they thought it might be... They don't know who Ashton Kutcher is back then, though.
I have an interesting scientific theory, which is that I think that it'll say a lot about society, the number of hours between human species first inventing time travel and human species first live streaming time travel in that like content creator format. And that I think
it's a very small gap, I think.
Yeah, and that is going to be like, that's how much longer the human species deserves to be alive.
There's going to be that really small gap though before after time travel exists and when Jake Paul time travels.
Yes.
To when he... Was it Jake Paul or Logan Paul who went in the Suicide Forest?
That was Logan Paul. So Logan Paul's going to go back to, like, the Battle of Hastings and just be like, look at all these corpses. Isn't this fascinating?
What will happen is Jake Paul will time travel back to when his brother Logan went in the Suicide Forest and show that. That will be his fun moment that he captures.
Little does he know that Logan Paul has fast-forwarded time and is now witnessing his own corpse. And he's like, guys, this shit is crazy.
This is crazy, guys. Anyway, Hop is about an Easter bunny from Easter Island, funnily enough.
Makes sense.
You know, can you guess why it's from Easter Island?
Well, yeah, it's like how Santa comes from...
Santa Island.
Santa comes from Christmas From
Christmas Island, yeah, that's...
Christmas Island, yes, that's... Santa runs that joint.
Santa runs the detention facility on Christmas Island.
Fucking prison. On
Jesus
Christmas
Christ. But Hop stars Russell Brand as the Easter Bunny.
Sandra would be a really good prison warden, I think.
Well, he probably... I don't know. Who knows how he treats those elves up there on the North Pole.
That's true, actually.
Anyway, the Easter Bunny's dad is Hugh Laurie. So Russell Brand's dad is Hugh Laurie in this film. Basically, the film goes that the Easter Bunny child doesn't want to become the Easter Bunny. He wants to become a rock and roll star, you see.
Oh.
So he travels to LA to become a rock and roll star, and he meets Arnold Schwarzenegger. Not Arnold Schwarzenegger. No, who is it? Who does he meet? My God.
I don't know.
No, it's David Hasselhoff. He meets David Hasselhoff.
Very different energy. Can I quickly say that because of the difference in accents between Russell Brand and Hugh Laurie, what that means is because Hugh Laurie will have raised Russell Brand in like a posh environment, that Russell Brand's character is affecting the Cockney accent that Russell Brand actually has. He's appropriating a poor accent to make himself seem more rock and roll.
So that David Hasselhoff will be like, dude, this kid rocks.
Yeah, so that's pretty fucking uncool, Hop.
So continuing on with that cultural appropriation, though,
good.
Bunny, the Russell Brand bunny, he goes in LA and he runs into a guy, a human man, whose house that the rabbit is staying in, the human man's house. And the human man decides, hang on, I would like to become the Easter Bunny. This is a spoiler for everyone, by the way, because this isn't until the end of the movie we know that the human man would like to become the Easter Bunny.
Okay.
So then, what happens is the bunny, with the help of David Hasselhoff, becomes a rock star.
Is David Hasselhoff playing himself in this movie? Is one of
David
those joints?
David Hasselhoff is playing himself.
I love that shit. That's my favourite.
Right, exactly. So the human man then becomes the Easter Bunny, Chris. So basically, the implication that I get from this is that white men are even stealing jobs from rabbits.
My favourite example of the playing themselves thing is in the TV show The Grinder that only I watched, which is about Rob Loeb is an actor who becomes a lawyer. And it's got Timothy Olyphant in it, playing himself as Timothy Olyphant. But he just kind of acts like Timothy Olyphant, who's just this like very, very chill, good-looking guy. And he just kind of hangs out. And like, there's not really a joke to it. He's just there.
It's just there. Okay,
but it works, because Timothy Olyphant is just so goddamn charming that it works. So now, I get it.
I didn't get into probably the most questionable part of this movie. In Easter Island, right? So the rabbits are the upper class, the upper echelons of society on Easter Island.
Okay.
And then there are also chicks. So the chicks are baby chickens. And I suppose they're baby chickens forever.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's some Logan's Run kind of shit that you're...
Right, exactly. So, because they do have human man voices, the chickens do.
Extremely disconcerting.
Now, here's the thing that is most disconcerting about this, in this film Hop, is that the main chicken with a human man voice, is called Carlos, and he has a quite Mexican accent.
Don't love where this is going.
I don't love... So all of the chickens are doing indentured labour for the rabbits on Easter Island, permanently in a juvenile state, so the rabbits can control them, I assume.
So just to confirm, this movie is saying that Easter, i.e. Christianity, takes advantage of, let's call it what it is, Mexican slave children.
Right, exactly.
I mean, it's not inaccurate.
It's not inaccurate. And then also, it tells the story of how white men can take jobs from literally anyone, including rabbits, and it's okay.
But the rabbits who they take jobs from definitely make sure to oppress the Mexican slave children.
Absolutely. And here's the thing that, the movie, the head chicken is the evil man, is the evil one. And he's evil because he wishes to become the Easter Bunny after working in the Easter Bunny production facility for, I guess, decades.
Well, yeah, Alison, we got to keep them down. They got to know their place.
And And then in the end of the movie, the evil chicken who wanted to become the leader of a company that he's been working in for decades, presumably, a white man, human man, comes in and says, I would like to be the Easter Bunny, and everyone's like, you've got the job, buddy.
As they should.
This is a very realistic movie. I don't know why it was only rated 25% when it was making such a strong statement about the state of our society.
That's the real discrimination right there.
Do you have a news story, Chris?
I do.
Before I spend a whole episode discussing the film Hop.
Whilst I would honestly enjoy that, I do think that that's not what people have signed up for.
No.
In this,
I'll do another video. If you want me to do a podcast episode about the film Hop, I will make a podcast episode about the film Hop.
It's going to just be you talking. I'm just going to be like sitting there playing Animal Crossing while you just talk about Hop. Okay.
Absolutely.
This is a story sent to me by Rebecca, your sister.
Oh, wonderful.
It's from BBC News. And there's not that much to this, except just the core concept is an absolute delight.
Sure.
So, misspelled ACOM sign proclaims, Chris is risen.
That's good. I like that. I like that you've risen, Chris.
Thank you. A church was presented with signs reading, Chris is risen, after a mix-up at the printers. Acomb Parish Church in York had ordered 4 banners saying, Christ is risen, but the T was missed off the finished article.
Well, there you go.
However, Assistant Curate Ned Lunn said the error was discovered before the signs were delivered. A BBC Radio York Facebook post has been shared more than 3,000 times, prompting one person to reply, More tea, Vicar?
That's bad. Is that British humour?
I think that's what British humour is.
You know, because I like a lot of British comedy shows, right? But when you take a British comedy out of context, it's bad, Chris.
What a wonderful hot take. Alison thinks British comedy is bad, is just what I've learnt.
I love British comedies.
Mr. Lund said, I'm so glad the customer spotted the mistake. It'll save a bit of embarrassment and a lot of confusion. I had to check the 4 banners.
So the vicar, I guess, or whoever he is, the pastor, believes that people would be confused by that?
Well, I mean, yeah, because Chris is risen and Christ isn't risen, and they're different people.
Right, sure. And they know you, Chris. They know you from this podcast.
But I had to check the 4 banners when I distributed them, though, just to make sure. The pastor at the Baptist church is actually called Chris, and he's got to get up for a sunrise service at 6:30 a.m. on Easter Sunday. His predecessor didn't manage to get up for the service last year.
Is he suddenly roasting one of the other church?
Yes!
He's like, well, you know, at that Baptist church, they didn't even wake up on time for the Easter service. Can you believe that guy?
As a fellow Chris, who I need to deconstruct what it means to be risen.
Sure.
Because there's a few different things that it could mean. Like, it could mean in terms of, like, existentially, like in life. So, like, I've come so far, which for me is patently untrue.
Absolutely.
It could mean awake. That's a good one, but often, often untrue for me. It could mean a boner.
I was going to say it could mean erect.
Which, again, often untrue for me. So...
Oh, dear.
So I actually think that this is honestly just inaccurate, because all of the different things that I can think of that it could mean are just not correct for me, the one and true Chris.
For you personally.
Yeah.
Right. The most important Chris in the world.
I mean, I'm glad you said it. I didn't want to be the one who said it.
It'd be a bit egotistical if you said it, but if I said it, then it's just like,
then it's all right. That's
it's fine.
I've got my work colleague Alison to say that I am in fact the one true Chris.
Exactly.
Do you have a story for me, Alison? There's no more content to this one. I just wanted to quite narcissistically do this story about how I'm risen.
Well, I suppose we've kind of inadvertently gone to an Easter theme, haven't we? Because I was talking about the film Hop, which is an Easter film, and then you were talking about that. This isn't really an Easter story, but I guess Easter could be about new life, which does tie into this story. That's my segue, Chris.
Hey, Alison, Easter's the one where he dies. Christmas is the one where he's born.
And he comes back. He's risen on Easter Day.
Is this a zombie story?
He's risen and he's like, I'm Ashton Kutcher, you've been punked, we've discussed this.
That's very fair. Like and subscribe. Smash that like button.
You probably have this story as well, to be fair, so I'm just going to jump in before you go ahead and rip it right from my hands. This was sent to me by Anna, my intern, who has been very helpful. She sent me a lot of stories this week.
Nice.
This one is, I'm reading from 10 Daily, and it says, pandas finally get it on in isolation after 10 years while zoo closed.
Whoa.
This is by Abby Lenton. Wonderful. After a 10-year dry spell, the coronavirus has encouraged these pandas to get jiggy.
I wonder what it was. Was it just like the light was right that day? One panda looked over at the other and they were like, actually, I could...
I mean, actually that panda is quite a stunner.
This is I've never seen you in this light. You've been my friend for a decade, but I've never seen you like this before. Let's get jiggy.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This is a whole new way of looking at you. It says, after a decade of will they, won't they antics, 2 giant pandas have finally come together to make the beast with 2 backs. Ugh. That's a really gross way to put it, Abby.
Oh, Abby, what are you...
Abby?
Abby, I don't like what you're into, and I'd like you to stop, please.
So... It's one way to put it, I suppose. Ying Ying and Lele's love story is a long and rocky one. The 14-year-old giant pandas were placed in the same enclosure more than a decade ago at Hong Kong's Ocean Park theme park, in hopes that they would one day do the damn thing, as Abby writes. As a species, giant pandas are notoriously difficult to breed, even more so in captivity. In fact, if the phrase, I have a headache, were an animal, it would be the giant panda. Keepers had all but given up hope. It looked like Ying Ying and Lele were adamant they were just roommates. There's a picture, they've decided to include a picture of the 2 pandas in position to do the act.
I mean, look, Alison, it's genuinely a very, very rare thing to see, so it's probably not unreasonable to see that.
And the caption says, Ying Ying and Lele giving us hope to all of us.
What, hope that we'll all get laid someday? Is that what you're implying there?
Well, if these pandas got laid, then, surely there's hope for everyone.
If they could get laid, maybe one day I can too.
But as we're all beginning to learn now, roommates begin to look a whole lot more appealing when you're not allowed to leave the house. So after 10 long years, Ying Ying and Lele were caught riding dirty as their keepers proudly watched on, cameras in hand.
I like the idea that these pandas have only just now decided to bone down because they've, in the past, been just like, I could, but also like panda tender. Like I could just go out and, get some strange somewhere else, go to one of the other enclosures. Which is obviously...
just wandering around the enclosures looking for other animals that he thinks that are close enough genetically to him for it not to be weird.
Panda just turns up outside the leopard enclosure and is just he says you up, which in Panda comes out as and
the leopard is just like the leopard opens one eye and then closes it again to pretend.
Okay, so I like this idea that the panda has been trying to get laid with various animals for a decade, but has yet to succeed.
No one would do it. No one would do it.
These pandas
and then the
lost...
panda,
Wait, these pandas potentially lost their virginities to each other recently.
Exactly. Look, the panda was an incel. The male panda was an incel.
Yes.
And he was trying to go for all the other animals, and he didn't go for the other incel.
The female panda was a volcel because she saw what her options were and was like, no, thank you.
Exactly. It said the pandas were also photographed embracing after the act. There's no evidence of Lele smoking a cigarette in bed, but we can only assume. That morning, the zoo issued a press release informing the world of the happy news, confirming their pandas had entered into their hormonal estrus cycle.
Oh my god.
Okay.
What kind of fucking press? I need to just... You've worked more in media than me, Alison. How would you pitch these pandas did a fuck as a press release?
Exactly like that.
You phrase it exactly like that.
Exactly like that. Because I feel like that would be people will be like, what the fuck is this? I'm going to click this in my inbox.
Hey everybody, the pandas did a fuck.
If successful signs of pregnancy, including hormonal level fluctuations and behavioural changes, may be observed as early as late June, though there is a chance that Yinging could experience a pseudo-pregnancy, said Michael Booz, Executive Director of Zoological Operations and Congregation. And Conservation. Sorry, there's a picture that's next in this article.
I ate a whole pizza last night, so I'm experiencing a pseudo-pregnancy.
This is a picture from a screen cap from the Lonely Island music video. We're holding a cake that says "Congrats on the sex."
Excellent, very good content.
Which is a really good choice. It's a great choice, Ten Daily.
That's very good, Ten Daily.
You've done well. You've done well.
I'm proud of you.
You've made up for that really gross pun at the start there with that picture from the Lonely Island.
I've completely forgotten about it. Just put Lonely Island in any story and I will forgive.
Exactly. And that's why I kind of forgot about the rest of the story. Look, the rest of the story is, there's not much to it. The pandas fucked after a long time, and congratulations to them.
Congratulations. Be safe, unless in this case you're trying for a baby, which they presumably are. Just, make sure everyone's in the mood. That's all I got to say. Exactly.
Maybe coronavirus will get you in the mood. Who knows? Who knows?
Can I bring you a story from dailymail.co.uk?
Oh, no. You can. You can.
This was submitted to us by Nick the Communist.
Thank you, Nick the Communist.
And I refuse to call him by his full name. He is forever and always Nick the Communist. Nick, please do tell me if that offends you in any way, and I will stop.
Nick, middle name The, family name Communist.
Donald Trump says he will look at pardoning Tiger King's Joe Exotic after Don Jr. said zoo owner's 22-year prison sentence for murder for hire seemed aggressive.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Have you watched the documentary?
Nope.
Oh, I have.
Okay, good.
It's quite an interesting documentary. But there is a podcast about it, by the way, which is better than the documentary and better than our podcast. So stop listening to this and go listen to that podcast.
Alison retracts that statement immediately. Don't do that. Do it afterwards. Please listen to our podcast.
Please listen to the rest of this podcast, because we do have stories this week.
But I do vaguely know what it's about, and I figure you'll enjoy this story more than I will.
Sure.
President Trump said... God, I hate saying that. President Trump said he would look at pardoning Joe Exotic, the star of the Netflix series Tiger King, who is currently serving 22 years in prison for a murder-for-hire plot. I'll take a look, Trump said Wednesday at the White House, telling reporters that he had not seen the show, which has been a ratings hit as Americans stay at home through the coronavirus crisis.
Oh, my God.
On Monday on SiriusXM, Donald Trump Jr. had called Exotic's sentence aggressive after watching the documentary series in 2 sittings. Now, I don't know exactly what he was charged with. I watched the show, but it was like, I don't know exactly what he was guilty of or wasn't, Trump Jr. said.
Okay, before we move on, Trump Jr. watched a Netflix documentary and he didn't know what the person was guilty of or what they were charged with, but says, it seemed a little bit harsh in the Netflix documentary.
Definitely seemed harsh.
Because America is a fucked up country, which has Donald Trump as the president then looked at what his son said about a Netflix documentary he watched and said, I'll look into it.
That is a very good summation, actually.
Oh, my God.
It doesn't seem like he was totally innocent of anything. But when they're saying, we're putting this guy away for 30 years, I'm saying that seems sort of aggressive. Which to me suggests that Donald Trump Jr. has tried to have people killed at some point. And
well, yeah, he probably has. I would say chances are...
If he gets caught, he wants to set a precedent that he doesn't have to go to prison for too long.
Right, exactly. He's like, well, Joe Exotic didn't, so I don't have to.
When a reporter brought up his son's comments, Trump commented, which son? It must be Don. I had a feeling it was Don, the president said. I think I could do well just by doing like dramatic readings of Donald Trump's statements in just like a very sincere voice, because like
which son?
No, but I'm not going to do the voice. I'm going to do it in my voice because it sounds even more batshit insane when not done
when you
through
just
his...
read it.
Yeah.
When you read it clearly.
The show follows three main zoo owners, including Exotic and Carol Baskin, the woman who owns Tampa, Florida's Big Cat Rescue. It was Baskin that Exotic was allegedly plotting to kill. I think it's now just sort of recapping the show.
The show, exactly. Which in the show, there's a third person called Doc Antle, who does have a weird sex cult surrounding his zoo.
I see why you watched this, Alison. It seems very on brand for you.
It is very on brand for me. But this guy has a lot of women who come to work in his zoo, but also they become kind of his girlfriends.
Interesting.
And they bang a lot, and that's... I don't know. Who knew?
I mean,
the world
look, if
exotic cats was so randy.
If the pandas can do it, what can I say?
Doc Antle sure can too.
In April 2019, Exotic, whose real name is Joseph Allen Maldonado Passage... Maldonado Passage was convicted of 2 counts of murder for hire, 8 violations of the Lacey Act, and on 9 violations of the Endangered Species Act. Do you think that's a bit aggressive, Alison?
Yeah, look, the thing with the documentary that it didn't go into that the podcast did and various other things is there was a lot of, like, in the movie it's focusing on the murder for hire thing, but there were actually a lot of charges that he was being laid down on him.
Yes.
In terms of, like, for a start, he was illegally breeding exotic animals, which is already a crime, a criminal crime. And then on top of that, there was numerous animals which were being mistreated or killed when they got too old to be cuddly play tigers.
Well, that's not ideal.
Which isn't ideal in most circumstances. And most circumstances, I mean all circumstances. So these were also involved in that kind of plots. But, of course, because Donald Trump Jr. watched one Netflix documentary and made a tweet, his Daddy Trump, will look at that and be like, oh, yeah, well, my son, he knows. I'm going to look into it.
Helpfully, Daily Mail has included a photo of Donald Trump photographed next to Eric Trump, who is holding the corpse of a leopard. It does seem like he has priors, maybe.
Perhaps there's some kind of, perhaps they do enjoy a spot of hunting exotic pets.
My favourite question to ask about this is just inspired by the fact that there's one kid named D. Trump Jr. and one kid named Eric Trump, which one of those is the favourite? Like, is the one who shares your name the good one, or is the one who gets his own name the good one? Like, if I have 2 sons and I name one Chris Jr. and one Kenneth, who's the good one, you know?
Well, which one? Do both of them have jobs in his cabinet?
I have absolutely no idea. Okay, I've got a follow-up question, actually. It would make sense if Chris Jr. was the first one born. And then I'm like, well, I can't use that one again. What if Chris Jr. is the second one born? So Kenneth is born, and then I'm like, this isn't working. I'm going to name the next one after myself, and maybe that one will be a winner.
Chris Jr., CJ.
CJ, yeah. Like from Grand Theft Auto.
Absolutely.
Do you have a story for me, Alison?
Well, let's stick around in the USA, hey?
Let's do it.
So this I'm reading from Junkie, actually. And this one is said, US police apologise for accidentally using the purge siren to mark COVID-19 curfew.
Fucking yes!
Which it's not ideal, frankly, for something to happen. Are you familiar with the film The Purge? Have you watched it?
I haven't watched it, but I've watched the Rick and Morty episode about it, which I'm ashamed to admit. So, like, I get it.
Yeah, I haven't watched it, but I'm familiar with the concept of the film.
I've heard it's good.
I'm in quarantine, so I might watch it.
Yeah, watch The Purge. Give us a Purge review
I watched Hop
week.
and Spy Kids 4. Who knows what film will be next?
I want to hear next week your ranking of the 3 films, The Purge, Spy Kids 4 and Hop.
The Purge, Hop, and Spy Kids 4. But here's the thing, I feel like it's unfair because I don't have the aromascope portion of the film, Spy Kids 4, to judge based on.
Alright, well maybe we can Google what the aromas are and we can try and recreate them for you.
For the full experience.
Yeah.
Louisiana police have apologised for accidentally using a siren to sound a sick to sound a signal a city... Using a siren sound to signal a city curfew, which is used in the horror series The Purge. As per IndieWire, a curfew has been put in place in Crowley, Louisiana, due to what police are calling the rapid spread of COVID-19 in Acadia Parish, where the city's located.
I'm just putting it out there that Roni can spread during the day as well.
Oh, it sure can. No, Roni only comes out at night.
Roni is a vampiric
Roni's a
disease.
party animal. It prohibits citizens leaving their house between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. at risk of citation unless they have documentation from an employer explaining their travel. On April 4, the police have announced the curfew via a siren, one eerily familiar to those who have seen any of the Purge series. For the uninitiated, The Purge is a horror series set in an alternate America where all crimes, including murder, are legal for one night a year, with no emergency services available to call for aid. The first film, released in 2013, featured Ethan Hawke and Game of Thrones Lena. I don't care who it featured.
I like them. They're good.
Well, that's good. There you go. You care. That's nice. There are currently 4 films in the series and a TV show, and a 5th, possibly final film was scheduled for the US release in July.
Well, that seems
but it's been
excessive.
pushed back due to COVID-19.
That makes sense.
It might, yeah. Throughout the series, a siren marks the beginning of the Purge. In the video below from local network KATC3, and one circulating on Twitter, you can hear it played in the town. It's not ideal.
There's definitely at least 4 or 5 people who heard that and they were just like, I've been waiting so long.
It's America. They're all prepared for murder at all times.
It did occur to me the other night that, like, I don't think Australia could ever get into that kind of, like, Arab Spring-esque civil revolt through 2 things. This is going to get very sociological for a minute, so just hear me out.
Sure.
A, guns are illegal. B, we don't have the death penalty, which I think limits the amount of oppression we can experience. But America has A, the death penalty, B, a rising spectre of fascism, and C, a fuck ton of guns. So I think America's the one where I could see that actually happening.
I could see a lot of, I could see the Purge happening in America.
Yeah.
Within the year, probably, I could see that happening.
The descent.
If I was an American living in Louisiana, which, Louisiana is Louisiana, it's part of that portion of America.
Get out.
Yeah. So I could see some people hearing the siren and being like, our time has come.
All right, time to get freaky.
I guess it's finally happened, hey?
Time to see how many toes I can collect.
Toes specifically. The good thing about collecting toes is each human has approximately 10. So
well, yeah, you collect them. You collect them in lots of 10. So it's like
exactly.
You want to see how many thousand toes you can get.
Right, exactly. In response to the natural criticism of inspiring fear and dread within the hearts of horror fans, Acadia Parish Sheriff KP Gibson gave a statement to KATC3 saying they were not involved in the siren use nor condone a siren, suggesting Crowley's police department went rogue here. Last night, a purge siren was utilised by the Crowley Police Department as part of starting curfew. The statement read, "We've received numerous complaints with the belief that our agency was involved in the process."
I love that they referred to it as a purge siren, as though that's what it's now officially known as.
Exactly. We have now received numerous complaints with the belief that our agency was involved in the process. We were not involved in the use of the purge siren and will not utilise any type of siren for this purpose. By the way, the purge siren is in inverted commas. So
how do you think the police went about doing that? Do you think they just, like, plugged the siren aux cord into one of their phones and, like, YouTubed a scene from The Purge?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. They just, like, rolled around in their police cars with the aux cable. Oh, dear. Yeah, that's about all there is to this story. If you are a police cop, maybe don't play a murder siren to start a curfew.
I've got a number of sort of smallish stories.
Okay.
I might try and blast through. So this one was sent to me by my mum.
Thank you, Chris's mum.
This is from bbc.com. Jacinta Ardern says that the Tooth Fairy and the Easter Bunny are essential workers. That's literally all of it. I just thought that was funny and is a good example of a cool Prime Minister.
I don't know if it's cool or cringy. Maybe it's because I don't have kids.
I think it's two things at once. I think it can be cool and cringy. Like, that's
right. It's cool if you're a mum with some kids and you can show your kids the Prime Minister Ardern on television saying, look, the Easter Bunny is an essential worker. But it's one of those... Maybe you think that's cool. But as an adult with no kids, I'm like, this is a little bit cringe.
Counterpoint. It seems like something that someone who's, like, post-ironically funny would say in a tweet. Like,
sure,
I could imagine, like, fucking, like, Phoebe Bridgers or someone just being like, actually, the Tooth Fairy's an essential worker, so...
Right, exactly.
You know?
Sure, fair enough.
This is... Sorry,
That said, if we're to believe the movie Hop, and the Easter Bunny is a human man now, which he is in the film universe Hop...
Yeah.
Then I'm not sure I want a human man coming around delivering his eggs to my children.
I think that human men's eggs should stay inside themselves. And
I think human men's eggs should not be around children. I think it's inappropriate for human men eggs to be near children.
Can I bring you another story from my mum? This one's from ABC. This is written by Mary Elizabeth Bryan. It's an opinion piece. And it says, coronavirus self-isolation with my adult children is like a blast from the past. And I have a hunch that my mum is trying to tell me something here because she's currently living with my sister and my brother, who are both adult children.
Sure. Like, I get that. I can see that. I want to know what this opinion piece has to say about that, though. In what ways is it a blast from the past?
A lot of us are in lockdown with kids in the house. But what do you do when these kids are university students who haven't lived at home for months? In a city where rents are expensive and the interstate university colleges where they used to live are closed, my family finds itself in self-isolation with 2 university students who are studying online. Suddenly, we're a family of 4 again. I was delighted to have our beautiful young adults back with us.
No, you weren't. I mean, maybe for a second you were, but...
We were hoping to take advantage of reassimilating and getting to know each other again, doing the quality time thing. But it's a different landscape to raising school-age children. For one, the hours are different. As I write this, it's about 2:30 in the afternoon. I've been up with my husband since before 7 a.m, and uni student 1, who is 20, has just got out of bed. The younger one is still asleep.
I'm sorry, I don't know what these people were like as teenagers, because I'm pretty sure that's what I did on the weekend as a teen.
That's fucking normal, dude.
For teens, I think it's even more normal.
I do now have the body clock of a very, very elderly man, because I get up at 6:30 to 7:30 every day and go to bed at 10.
Oh, look, I used to have that. And then I came back from a different country with a different time zone, and my body clock never adjusted.
Recently, when Karen was over, my mum's phoning me. I'm going to decline because I'm busy. Recently, when Karen was over, she decided she wanted to watch the movie Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Sure.
And I did...
Which is a questionable choice.
Choice. And I did fall asleep.
I can't judge. I watch a lot of movies.
And I did fall asleep during it because it was past my bedtime of 10 p.m. And it's not the first time that's happened, so...
Oh, dear.
Okay.
That's where your life is now.
Living with uni students is like living with perpetual jet lag, except it is not your own. We aren't operating in the same time zones. Now, let me qualify this. They haven't been out disobeying the government's directions to not socialise in groups of more than 2. They haven't had any mates to the house. We are self-isolating after all. They haven't even left the house in over a week. So far, so legally good.
So legally good.
Yet, neither of them were in bed until after 5 a.m, so they are catching up on their 8 hours. Like the possums and bats that frequent the nightscape around where we live, I've discovered my sons are nocturnal. Their natural hours of wakefulness barely coincide with mine.
Jesus Christ.
It's not just the time zones that are different. The culture shock is real too. While in lockdown, one son has decided to take up a hobby. He's learning guitar.
I'm just thinking, like, anyone deciding, if you already know the instrument, right, okay, that's good, but taking up an instrument and starting to learn it from the very beginning when no one can leave the house.
My brother used to do that. He learnt the saxophone when I was still living at home, and it sounded like a fucking foghorn was just going...
I can't.
And while it might be lovely to be strummed to sleep, it's far less enjoyable being awoken in the middle of the night to the sound of someone attempting to learn a Jimi Hendrix riff. And I stress that that's not playing, just learning, which means repeating the same series of chords over and over again and singing the same lyrics on repeat.
Oh my god.
Uni student 2, traditionally the more sporty of the two, has set up a home gym out the back of the house. And in the garage.
I'm not even imagining these are kids. I'm just imagining me being an adult human living with other adult humans doing this stuff and not being able to go out.
Yeah.
And just having to deal with... At least my sister's hobby is playing Animal Crossing, which is relatively inoffensive to everyone involved.
That's a fairly quiet and simple hobby.
It's a fairly quiet and not annoying hobby.
Yeah. Your sister has racked up a frankly scary number of hours in that game.
I feel like probably a lot of people have in this corona climate.
I feel like I'm like a little baby when it comes to Animal Crossing. Like, I've clocked like 60 hours of Animal Crossing.
Only 60?
Yeah, and I was like, that seems pretty good, but no, that's baby shit.
That's baby shit. Absolutely.
Out the back of the house and in the garage, using whatever he can cobble together. This means some old weights, some kitchen items, the broom, a backpack with what I think must be dirt inside. Frankly, I don't want to know. I was so looking forward to my life with children again. But instead, life with the uni students means every 4 bars of Jimi Hendrix's Foxy Lady is punctuated with the great thud of a dropped weight on the concrete or a loud grunt of exertion.
Okay. Oh, as I said, I'm not a mum, and I'm not imagining these are kids. I'm just imagining they're other humans that I'm living with. And look, these activities, playing the guitar and doing exercise, in a normal climate, they'd be relatively inoffensive.
Yeah.
In the corona climate, when no one can leave the house, everything is annoying.
My son's body clocks make it impossible for us to time meals together. So much for that quality time. Hubby and I regularly eat at 7:30 p.m, and the meal we choose at that time is called dinner, not breakfast. Dinner for the nocturnal members of the household occurs around...
I feel called out.
Occurs around... I love it, I feel like you're the more mature of the two of us, but you have a lifestyle that is like midday to midnight kind of deal.
At this point in my life, it's beyond midnight.
Yeah. Like, I feel like...
And that's just simply because I have nothing to do in my life.
Like, I have, I think, the maturity of a tall child, but...
Sure.
At the same time, I do have the lifestyle of a very old, very, like, ragged man.
If someone would like to give me a job and get my sleeping habits back on track, give me a shout, you know? Give me a shout.
Someone who listens to this podcast, please hire Alison.
Hire me, and then I can go to sleep at a normal hour.
Dinner for the nocturnal members of the household occurs around 3 a.m. and involves the microwaving the prepared family meal that they couldn't eat at their breakfast time. If they are still hungry, I can look forward to a cacophony of banging. It's not weights or music this time, but pots and pans, kitchen drawers, microwave oven doors, and fridge doors over and over and over again. It finishes not long before my day begins, at 6 a.m. With the aftermath from this 3 a.m. banquet, they didn't quite manage to clean up. So she basically spends the rest of the article just sort of saying that there's no solution and that they're fucked.
Yes.
Which is correct.
Sure.
What would you do, Alison, in this circumstance? You haven't lived at home for many moons.
No, for many moons I have not lived at home.
No, neither have I.
I don't know, when did I move out of home? At the end of 2009, I moved out of home.
Mine was 2011.
Sure. And that just tracks about age difference.
Yes.
I don't know. I feel like I'd probably get on everyone's nerves.
Well, I think you just end up playing The Sims a lot. That seems to be
I probably would, yeah.
You do.
Exactly. True. Which is what I did as a teenager.
Can I bring you one final quick story?
Sure, and then I'm going to bring you a quick headline and then we'll finish up.
Perfect. This is barely a story. I just like the concept. And this is sent to me by my dad. Coronavirus border check intercepts Gold Coast man with alleged cannabis stash. Queensland police conducting border checks aimed at stopping the spread of the Roni say they have uncovered a stash of marijuana.
And that's exactly how it's phrased, isn't it? The Roni.
Definitely. I didn't change that wording at all.
No, that's the original wording.
Uncovered a stash of marijuana worth almost $500,000.
Ooh, boy.
Officers pulled over a ute towing a trailer during peak hour on Wednesday on the Pacific Highway at Tugun on the Gold Coast. They said they found 93 kilograms of cannabis stuffed in plastic bags and more than $4,000 cash bound for Queensland. The drugs have an estimated street value of $450,000. The 31-year-old driver from Gold Coast suburb of Palm Beach is facing numerous charges and was also fined $13,000 for breaching the chief health officer's direction regarding border crossings.
Just on top of that, he gets his little Roni fine as well as his actual
the
crimes.
main reason I wanted to read this story was just the idea that drug trafficking does not count as a reasonable excuse for being outside during quarantine.
It's like the guy who got stopped trying to smuggle drugs into the hotel quarantine that someone was in, and he had it in a fruit basket,
yes.
But he didn't hide it inside the fruit. He just sat it in the basket.
Like, if you're going to do it... And this guy just had a ute full of weed and cash.
Yeah, sure. It's just there.
So, like, you just got to put it under the floorboards or something at least,
Put a bit of effort into concealing it. You know, I'm not condoning drug trafficking, but put a bit of effort in. And then you can be on Border Security Australia's front lines and they'll do an uncover and it'll be really cool.
I just think, Alison, these millennial drug traffickers just aren't putting in the effort that the older drug traffickers used to.
Back in my day,
you'd have to sew the cocaine inside the lining of your suitcase. There was none of this just putting it in the suitcase shit.
Exactly.
What's your headline?
So anyway, this is from The Express, a newspaper that we delved into quite a bit last week.
Indeed.
Look, I just like this headline, the way it's written, because it is very on brand for The Express. Alien UFO found in Antarctica is 100% proof of ancient aliens on Earth. Odd claim.
Accurate.
It's my favorite thing about that paper is this is the way of headline writing according to The Express. You can write the headline as literally everything and then punctuate it with odd claim.
I think they should put weird, huh? At the end of all of them. Wait up, I've got an idea. I'm just going to pop open The Guardian and see if I can filter some of their headlines through this.
For the Express headline style.
Okay, let's start. Confirmed worldwide COVID-19 deaths past 100,000. Yikes.
Odd claim.
When will Australia know the coronavirus battle is over? Big question. Why Australian renters and their landlords need certainty on residential tenancies. Controversial claim. I think it improves all of them.
Oh my god, sorry. Oh dear.
Pandemic lays bare a city's shocking inequities. Socialism now? Like, I think you could make all news better this way.
On the side of this one, there's 5 articles that all mention Nostradamus. Oh, God. Anyway, that's all. I'm not going to get too much into The Express this week because we did that last week.
We've got to do that.
The Express cast.
That's every second week.
Every second week is the Express cast.
We bank up stories during the Express cast.
But I must say, thanks very much, guys, for sending through so many stories this week. It made life a lot easier.
Yeah, please continue. Thank you, everybody, for listening. You can find us on Twitter or Instagram at Red Menace Cast or on Facebook at the Red Menace Podcast. You can find our sick merch at tpublic.com. Just search for the Red Menace Podcast. I am using the quarantine to start making some music, so if anyone wants to listen to my sick beats, spelt with a Z, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. And it's SIQ.
Yeah, sick beats. I'm putting them up on all of the iTunes, Spotify shit under the name Contextura. I think the first one actually will come out the day this podcast episode comes out. So if you want to listen to that.
Wow. I don't have anything to plug because I've been sleeping.
This is the first time I've plugged anything on this podcast outside of maybe the Coffee and Flowers thing.
Good plugging. Listen to Chris's music. He's a good boy.
Aw, thank you. I composed the intro music to this podcast. So, like, if you like that banger, then this is...
Check out those beats.
Check out my sick beats.
Absolutely.
I feel like, because the music I make exists within the same world as, like, DJ culture, and I just don't think that's for me.
No.
I just don't think I fit in. I'm not broy enough, Alison. I need to become broier.
You can become broy, and then you can share your beats with everyone.
That's a good idea. All right, by next week, I'm going to be a bro, and the only way that'll happen is if I get a lot of listens on my sick beats.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Good luck and good night. Smash that like button.
Don't forget to ding that bell for notifications.
Fucking sick, man.
Absolutely. Like wrist pain at the moment, which is also good.
I'd make fun of you because, like, if you were A, a man, and B, not asexual, I would make fun of you in the obvious way, but I can't do that, and it's extremely frustrating to me, Alison.
Yeah, it is quite frustrating. But you can pretend. You can pretend. Just for a moment.
You've just been jerking it. So right.
Exactly.
Hilarious.
It's more like typing wrist. It's probably the typer's wrist.
Bloody good euphemism there.
I'm suffering from typer's wrist. I've got tab that is open.
Let's go and do 35.